Hello and welcome back to the program. My name is Michael Finney. Today I am joined by Rachael Brady. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
I'm a developer. I mostly do backend. It's kind of a unique situation where I started this about, I would say 2 years ago. Before that, I, was never into programming. I always wanted to be a programmer, but I just had a lot of other stuff, in my life that, I wasn't focused on that.
Will you tell us a little bit about how you came into developing? What led you to that? What were you doing before and what you're going into?
Sure. So I'm married to somebody that's a computer scientist. And before we were married, I ran a Linux users group. And so I was always into technology and I liked the idea of like creating things. I just didn't have that background on, how to actually, sit down in front of a computer and start writing with code. And so I ran into some friends that had some requests they wanted me to do. And because I at least knew how to set up like Linux servers. This was like way back in the early 2000s. And then I would say like 2 years ago, I had a friend say, hey, I need a website set up to create a way to like save information on a database. So I helped them out. And then it's kind of have like how I was like, okay, I'm ready to like really dive into this and, start learning how to, program. So I like my main language is Python, but it's a lot of hacking too, of other stuff.
All right. So you're hanging out, you start to develop, you are advancing your skills. The back end Linux server maintenance stuff is super interesting. And then you kind of go into more the front end software side of things. So what are some of the things that you have been developing or creating over the last few years that people should know about?
A couple websites for, having, content on it. One of the things, I guess I can go back to Linux a little bit too. Like, so I used to volunteer at a convention called Linux Fest.
Very cool.
And I learned a lot through a lot of those people. So like I came from a small town, Lima, Ohio. And
I've played there.
Yeah, did you? So
yeah, years and years ago.
In a band?
Yeah.
Okay, wow. I'm trying to think, but even like, are you talking about like a bar or?
Yeah, it was a bar. And I think if my memory is serving correctly, it was a venue that had been a fire station that was converted.
Yeah.
Do not hold me to that because it was a long time ago.
Yeah, that's I think it's either beside or across the street from a tattoo shop called White Wizard. That's at least one bar that I know I think is still there. Yeah, Lima's an interesting place because they always talk about how they drive by, through it. There's, not a whole lot there. But yeah, we had a friend that he's blind. He was born that way. And he was into Linux because that was one of the easier things to do text to speech.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so I learned through him and my now spouse. So I was dating my husband. We're dating since we were like probably 18 years old. So it's been a long time. So I would hang out with them, and we would hang out at this NOC, the Network Operations Center in the local ISP called WCoil. And my friend would, he would need help with certain stuff. Like he'd break his keyboard. And so I would I'd help call in HP to help get it, replaced and all that. But he also was running a Linux users group. And I wanted to, learn about that because my dad, when we were kids, we had some old hand-me-downs of like the Commodore 64 and
nice.
the TI computer. Yeah, and then like he would take me to the local college at OSU. They had like a computer group there. But where I was living, at that time in the early 2000s, I didn't have a lot of internet access very or it wasn't very reliable. It was dial-up because we lived out in a rural area. So yeah, so I joined this group, and then we helped our friend run it, because he needed, someone to help him drive back and forth. And we hosted meetings at his house, and we would get a lot of college students that would show up because, they were very interested in Linux, and they were also very interested in hacking, because that was more, exciting. Like learning about, black hats and all that. And it was kind of a letdown for them because we're just going to show you how to, set this up, and certain things you can do. You have to know how to also learn, bash scripting or shell scripting and all of that.
Right.
So a lot of times the meetings were us just installing Linux on someone's computer, and then they'll come back to, like a week later, and they need help installing Windows on it again because they want to play video games. And, because they never, and we always tell them, like, there's certain games you can't play, on Linux at that time. And it got really frustrating because, they were more like attracted to just the more like exciting stuff with, I guess a lot of people think like, if you use Linux, that you're a hacker. And that's not, I mean, everyone's a hacker, but
when in reality, if you use Linux, you're just a dork.
But yeah, you're not some like nefarious person trying to steal data, and right. You don't need Linux for that. So we ran that for a while, and then my friend moved, and my husband and I ran the group, just the two of us, and we brought in a lot of people from I think it was called Uno. It's an interesting college because it's for auto mechanics. So we'd have a ton of like what is those cars? The Pontiac GT. I think it was a Pontiac. I forget, but like we would all. It's kind of funny because like here we are as nerds. We're like sitting in a parking lot inside of like a Toyota Corolla around all of these. We call them, like they all call them racers. Like in these ridiculous cars, all like souped up. And then they would drive back to our place to help them set up computer, Linux, and then show them how to at least get around in it through, the command line. That was the big thing that we tried to push is, try not to be so reliant on the GUI because, you're not really learning the system on how it works that way. And then after that, like just, life kind of got in the way where I think we were in our early 20s and we kind of grew up a bit. And then, we just got busy. So we ended up moving to Columbus, Ohio. And during those times, I was so my first computer was, it was Red Hat 7 point something, I think. So I didn't actually have a Windows computer until, later on. And that would like really, I was, going to college too, for, I think it was like a graphic design degree. And I had like a computer class where you had to learn DOS. And then I would always mess stuff up because of the / and the /, is different for Linux and DOS. Trying to think like where to go after that. So like, we moved to Columbus to really like for my husband to pursue his career in computer science. So he went to OSU, and then I just like the tinker with stuff. So I'll kind of jump forward where I got into ghost hunting.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, I don't think we've ever talked much about that at all.
Yeah. So I can bring that up, and then how I kind of connect that with the other stuff, with like programming. So I've been running a group. It's probably like 15 years old. It's called TOPS, Tennessee, Ohio Paranormal Society. So I investigate places in Ohio, and then my friend Tabitha, she lives in Tennessee now, but we used to go to school together in middle school. And we always talked about how we liked, the paranormal shows and how like ridiculous they are. And we're like, let's make a group where we're based on the tech more and don't, and just whatever happens. Like we don't,
Just then.
Yeah, we don't really care about the whole like, oh, there's a demon, talking to you or something. It's just because that's out. There's so many groups like that.
Yeah.
But we had some interesting stuff happen where you can't explain it, and that's really like what the excitement is. It's either a really old house that's making noises, or maybe it is a ghost. You just don't know. But the problem is a lot of people like to do, what do you call it, breaking into properties that are private properties.
Trespassing.
Yeah, trespassing. And I remember an article where there is some teenagers that broke in. I mean, I don't even know if they walked into their house, but they went to a place that looked abandoned, and they ended up getting shot. And I was like, that could happen a lot, because there are a lot of houses that are kind of ran down. And then and this is really common, like with my group, I will get tons of emails from people wanting to investigate a place because they saw something on a TV show. And a lot of those TV shows, they don't tell you that property is given them permission. A lot of them are portrayed like they are just, like, let's go walk down on this property and like start investigating, which isn't true. And so I wanted to make an app on like a database on using, what is it called? GPS something. Yeah, GPS. And so like there's a lot of public records where you can search properties to at least see if it's private or a public. And so I was like, this would be something I could really get into to learn how to program. And so that kind of like got me thinking about it. And it was a little overwhelming because at that time I basically like iPhone apps were really popular, because everyone was really, getting into that. You have to, and I didn't know how to program that. But I knew how to make websites and set up servers. And so my friend and I, she set up a WordPress site for Tops. And, we were slowly getting all this information together. But, the hardest part is like, we were all working full time. So I didn't take it super seriously to where I was like, oh, I need to sit down and, make this. So that's kind of really like what I think started with me wanting to program. But the bigger part is where I had a friend that wanted some help setting up a website for him. And that's where, the site I made called Rural Podcasts. And then, and from there, like there's so much to learn as someone that, I have a high school degree, I have some college experience, but, it's not, I really thought I would do like something medical coding. So when I have, I don't know, I have a lot of people that will ask me like, hey, do you really need a college degree in computer science to start a career in programming? And no, you don't. Like I have a lot of friends that, they don't usually get their degree until, later on in life because they want to change. And I actually started a podcast about that where I interview my blind friend. And he talks about his experiences about how, not everyone needs like go to school for 4 years to do this kind of stuff. But you definitely need, a mentor to help you. And so I was really lucky. I had my husband and my friends to kind of show me how to, do all this stuff. So, and that's how I, started these websites. Like I would, learn in the evening. And then during the day I would take time to, build stuff and then break it and then figure out how I, like why I'm breaking it.
Yeah, the usual developer path of writing code and then debugging.
Yeah.
Let me go back to a point you were making in regards to real world podcasts. So you have been podcasting for a while, it sounds like, maybe in coordination with a couple other projects, and you have been releasing those in the past, you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
So we get to the interest in podcast through that, right? That's kind of the thing. And then you have a friend who's like, hey, I want to do this project. You're launching the website. Now, there's lots of places available to people to distribute podcasts, right? Why this one? What makes this different?
Well, we wanted to. I did. I didn't really care. Like I was like, hey, this is a reason for me to like make something.
Yeah.
And so like his big thing was like he likes watching I think Joe Rogan, a lot of podcasts that are actually videos.
Yeah.
So I always call everything podcast. There may be a difference between those two. And I could see, like I do love podcasts on like I use, when I had what do you call it? A Android phone, I use Google's podcast feed and so I like hearing audio. I don't want to have to watch like a video all the time.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But yeah, the main driver for me was I was like, hey, this is an opportunity to just motivate me to make a site. And then so my friend had all the information about like what he wanted. And it was a lot of work because we ended up using React and a lot of JavaScript. So that's a little different than Python, because Python's more back end.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to explain that stuff to somebody who like you have a lot of friends that like they come up with really cool ideas, but then because that's the easy part. And then you gotta like, okay, well, let's figure out like the structure of this before we actually create it. So that was a lot of work. We part of it was like I can kind of get into the Bitcoin stuff too. So like they wanted something different where, like, so you have YouTube where you have content creators, but you're not making a ton of money, unless you're at the top. And everyone wants to be a content creator, like they want to make some money. But you can't even make, like YouTube's not going to pay you $5 to make like a, like with the content that you take out, at least from what I've, kind of read into.
Yeah. Well, they raised their requirements for payout a few years ago. So it used to be a much lower bar to monetize. Yeah. And then they raised their requirements just because, probably the accounting was not really worth it for them. I would imagine.
Yeah, and I don't think it's fair for people where it's like, okay, you got to devote your entire life to YouTube. I think it's kind of crazy where, like just from learning about some of the content creators, like that's their whole day. And yeah. Also like they eat, sleep, and, it's all deciding on how to bring more people in to watch her, fully watch the entire episode. I think that's a bit crazy. So I was telling my friend, like, what if we can make something that will make people, like $5, like they don't, they know this is something they can just play around with. They also like YouTube, but they know they're not going to be like a, YouTube star and make, a bunch of money that way full time. And so that was part of like reason why we built a site, for that. And it just kind of started from there.
Let me ask you about this. How does the blockchain tie into real world podcasts?
Sure. So it's funny, like it's actually not a whole lot. It's really just the wallet that people use to buy the podcast. So my friend and I, like, we have a podcast on there, and we'll interview some people that work on this same blockchain. But there are also a lot of other people that are just artists, and they'll post a video, and then they have the ability to type in whatever amount they want to sell their video for. Most people will sell it for like, I think 15 cents. And then the videos are not on the blockchain. You just, you log in with a crypto wallet, and then you just pay, and then that money immediately goes to the person, so they don't have to, wait for a month or whatever for that payout. And then they can, do whatever they want with that money. So like we don't.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We don't hold that money. It, immediately goes to their wallet. So that was kind of the selling point for me, because I'm like, I don't want to hold on to anybody's money. We also set up a subscription based thing where a person can set, I think like the average is like $7 a month, and then the viewers can pay that and then watch whatever they want, for the amount of videos that they put out within that month. It's a really fun project. But it's also really hard to get people to use it because
you're up against free distribution, essentially. So
it's it's that. But also think about this: like these people are making money, and but they like YouTube because it's what they're used to.
Yeah.
But we don't have we also don't have the tools like the analytics and stuff, and that was something I was telling my friend. I was like, this was after building, because I'm like, we need to think about different stuff that should be added on that will make it easier. Yeah. But yeah, definitely. It's the hardest thing is to get people to use it because really it's like they don't understand like the crypto part. And I think they're afraid of it. Like a lot of people are afraid that like we're scamming them.
I mean, you pay for a thing, you get a thing. That's pretty straightforward. You choose to pay the prices that you choose to pay. So, next phase of things, you've got the real world. Good Lord, I am going to stumble over that every single time I say it. You've got real world podcasts going. Now you are working on Molly Match. You want to tell us a little bit about what that is?
Sure. Yes, I wanted to learn more about like the blockchain, and I actually had a couple of friends that one's a computer scientist I've known for a long time through a whole website called LiveJournal. And she's like, hey, I have this other artist that, she has a lot of downtime. And I was like, let's make something crazy. So I was like, let's make this, cat game. And I also wanted to learn more about web frameworks. So one of the, I think, most popular ones, well, I don't want to say most popular anymore, but it's called Django. So you got Django, and then you also have, I think, React's JavaScript.
You're talking about the Python package.
Yeah. So yeah, Django's Python. So like you have this nice little like framework where you can, have everything that you want to create a website with like user sign in. Mm-hmm. The difference is Django is that like a lot of that is ran, back end.
Right.
And so I learned on top of that how to set up CloudFormation on AWS. And that was a couple crazy nights of, writing this big, JSON text file. And, and the craziest thing about like CloudFormation is that it takes forever. So like you run your script and then you got to wait for it to deploy on, on the AWS servers. And then if something isn't working, then you got to go back, troubleshoot, and then like rewrite the script again. There's logging, but everything's you're kind of nickeled and dimed by everything.
Right.
Yeah. But it is like one of the cheapest ways to run a site, and it gives you a lot of power. So we went that route on starting, this program this project called Molly Match. That name actually came from my daughter. She's 8, and we made this. I think we started like almost a year ago, and it's kind of like CryptoKitties,
sure,
but a little bit, but definitely it's way different than what CryptoKitties is. The other thing too is we kind of give people the ability to mess with the cat. So you probably like know about NFTs where there's different rarities and stuff like that.
I am familiar.
Yeah, and there's like a limited amount of NFTs that you buy from a series. We have it where we release a certain amount of cats called the Genesis Mollies, and then you buy them and then you can mate them. So when you have like a cat that is like a pink color, that's, I think, one of the rarer colors. So it's based on genetics where you have like a dominant and recessive gene. So say you have a cat, you'll see a lot of cats with like yellow and green colors because they are the most like dominant ones. But if you happen to be one of the lucky people that gets like a pink cat, you can start mating that cat with another pink one and then kind of flood the whole market with, that color and make it almost in an artificial way of like creating that as like the common type.
You could reduce scarcity within the Molly Match kitty market is what I'm hearing.
I can't wait to see that. Yeah, I can't wait to see like what people, come up with. So we just released buying the cats.
That's an interesting dynamic. I'm going to say
that
is very interesting because it gamifies a lot of stuff there. Because people become this this unknown element of consequences for the cat market. Love that. Did not know that, or at least hadn't arrived at that conclusion yet. But do go on. Tell us more.
So like you can, we're gonna have the market released pretty soon. That's when people can resell their cats, and also put them up for as like a stud. You can, and then also transferring. So we're getting transferring ready. That's going to be released probably in a couple of days. When we first started, I wasn't really sure like how people were going to respond to it. But we have, just a lot of positive responses. The only thing that I'm worried about is like, we decided to use PayPal as a way to pay, instead of using like a typical, like, Bitcoin wallet. And the reason we picked that is because I attend this convention called, it's local, it's called the GDEX. The GDEX is a video game convention, mainly by independent, gamers who also, they're kind of like me, where they're like, hey, I want to learn how to program and make a game. And where I'm at is at Columbus, Ohio, there's a group called COG. And it's a bunch of people that just show up and they build games, and they invited me to exhibit Molly Match there at the convention.
Yeah, that's great.
And so anyway, so that was like a reason why we ended up using PayPal for people to purchase the cats, because there's going to be a lot of people with PayPal already installed on their cell phones when they, walk up to our table. So we had a lot of signups, which really surprised me because I was there last year and I only offered like one, Bitcoin wallet. And then people were kind of like, I don't know, like they just didn't have the time or, to stop and install that wallet. So this was a way around it where people can just, walk up and buy a cat if they wanted.
Are you intending to make them available via BSV as well?
Yeah, so they are on BSB, but we just need to add the wallet to it. So that's really easy. We just have to put it in there. So I think we're going to use hand cash for that, and that will, because there are some people who are waiting to buy them until we have a wallet up for BSV. But yeah, I don't know. Like it was it just kind of eye-opening, talking with people kind of on a different, just a different mind frame of like a lot of them don't know what NFT is, or they just hear a lot of like negative, stuff about it because they see it as like a Ponzi scheme, which, I can't argue with them because there's just so much out there that, it's really hard to get into it without like knowing somebody, and taking that risk to buy, into someone's project.
For sure. Well, thank you for joining me today, Rachel. I think we learned a lot about your path as a developer and some of the projects that you have been working on and presenting. And I think that people should go out and check out, particularly the Molly Match thing. I think that one, is kind of the easiest to onboard or to interface with. And then if you are a podcaster or you are interested in blockchain components, then Real World Podcast is available as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Well, hey, enjoy your day and we'll talk before too long.
Yep, and see ya.